Okay, so I think it's time to get this session started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're really excited about this first Ask Nate Anything session. People have submitted some great questions, so we're really looking forward to getting to those. Just want to give a little background on Appsembler and introduce Nate, and then we'll get started. So for those who don't know, Appsembler is 100% focused on helping companies succeed with Open edX. We provide Open edX customization, implementation, hosting, support, and training. Open edX is the only platform that we work on. And we do have partners who do course development as well. Nate Aune is the CEO and founder of Appsembler. Nate's also the president and founder of Jazzcarta, a Python development company. It has over 15 years of open source experience, deep commitment to open source and agile methodologies. And he worked on the edX team in 2013 when Open edX was being released. So Nate has about as deep a knowledge and experience with Open edX as anyone. So a lot of people signed up today. We're really excited about some of the questions and the opportunity to talk with you about that. We're not going to be able to get to all the questions that were submitted. Dozens of people signed up and submitted questions. But if we don't get to your question, please be in touch and we'll be happy to answer them offline. So Nate, let's get to the first question. We're going to start with some high-level ones and then get to some more detailed technical questions. But first, how is Open edX different from other online learning platforms?
All right, great. Thanks, Louis. It's really great to see so many people here today. So how is edX different from other online learning platforms? So Open edX is relatively new. It's only been available to the public since 2013. And it was originally developed as a MOOC platform, or massive open online courses. So that was the original use case for edX.org. And today we're seeing a lot of other really unique use cases of the platform, which we'll get into a little bit further down the line. Another distinguishing factor of Open edX is it has a very modern web user interface. So it's very easy to use. The focus is on usability, making a great authoring platform for instructors, as well as a great learning experience for students. And lastly, it's open source, which means that anyone can take the code, can customize it, can tune it to their particular needs. I think you're muted, Louis.
There we go. Thanks. I think that last point is really a big one. I know when I talk to people, they're really excited about, since it's open source, the number of organizations and companies and universities and individual developers who are working on it and the velocity behind it and how rapidly it's developing. So next question, what are companies and universities using Open edX for?
Yeah, so we've seen really a huge diversity of use cases for edX. Obviously, the original use case of a MOOC platform is very common. A lot of people are using edX to deliver free online courses to 50,000, 100,000 students. But we're increasingly seeing people using it for delivering professional development courses, continuing education, and companies are now adopting it to deliver customer training, employee training, partner training, some really unique cases using it to actually generate new sales leads. So MongoDB was one of the very first companies to adopt the Open edX platform. And their Open edX site is now the #1 sales lead generator for the company, which I find a really interesting use case of edX.
All right, terrific. How is Open edX different from edX.org?
Yeah, so when we say edX, it can mean different things to different people. There is edX, the nonprofit, which is the organization that was founded by Harvard and MIT in, I believe it was 2011, 2012. There is edX, the consortium, which is the group of universities and other partners who have all joined edX as consortium members. And then there's OpenEdX, which is the software, the open source software that powers edX.org and hundreds of other edX sites around the world. So OpenEdX is, is developed with the support of edX, the organization, but it's really a community of developers all around the world who are contributing to the code base and making OpenEdX what it is today.
All right. So here's a question. Of course, OpenEdX can be used on AWS or on Google Cloud. Someone is asking, will Azure be supporting it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So when edX first started out, they were building OpenEdX for their own unique needs, and so they were building it basically, to meet their needs of deploying it on the Amazon Web Services platform. And now that edX is out there and there's more people that are adopting it, they want to use it on other hosting providers besides Amazon. So here at Appsembler, we've deployed OpenEdX on Amazon, we've deployed it on DigitalOcean, we've deployed it on Google Cloud, and as of a few months ago, we've been working with Microsoft to add Azure support. So this means that as of today, you can now deploy the OpenEdX stack on Azure, and we're working very closely with the Microsoft team to add multi-server deployment. So that means that you can actually deploy edX with a separate database server and separate application servers. So that's that's a new development that hasn't been publicly announced. You're hearing it here first, but we're really excited to be working with Microsoft and adding better support, not only for people like Microsoft who want to use it for their own initiatives, but also for anyone that wants to use the Azure platform. They can get edX up and running very easily.
Great, that's terrific. So a couple questions around the mobile and tablet experience. So let's talk about mobile apps first. What's available currently in the OpenEdX mobile app, and do you know if they're planning on doing more with the app, or if that's basically what the app will be?
Yeah, so today there are two mobile apps that are available for OpenEdX. There's an iOS app and there's an Android app, and those have been around. Those have been available as open source since earlier this year. I know that edX has a dedicated team of engineers who are working on improving the mobile app experience. So today, the way the app works is it's essentially a way for you to download the video content from the course onto your phone. You can either stream it on your phone, or if you want to have access to the video content offline, you can download those videos and then basically be learning anywhere, anytime from your mobile device. A new release of the mobile app is coming out in the next couple weeks that will have a lot more interactive capabilities, so the ability to do assessments on the phone, to be able to participate in discussion forums, and really making it closer to the kind of experience that you would have on a desktop PC.
That's great. What about the responsive, having an OpenEdX where the courses are responsive?
Yeah, so this is a really important aspect of any LMS platform, is that it's accessible to all different types of mobile devices, not just desktop machines. And historically, OpenEdX has kind of been a little bit behind the scene in terms of not providing a full responsive design and experience. But that is something that I know the edX team is working very hard on improving, not just responsiveness, but the overall theming architecture for edX to make it easier for people to build their own look and feel and white labeled versions of edX. Here at Appsembler, we've been building a responsive design theme using the Twitter Bootstrap framework, and we've started rolling that out to some of our customers. And basically what that lets you do is browse the edX site from your mobile device, and it adapts depending on the width of your device. So if you're in vertical mode, you're going to see things optimized, or if you flip your phone around and you view it in horizontal mode, it's going to adapt. And that's what we mean by responsiveness, is that the website basically adapts to the mobile device that you're using. So that's a really great way of providing kind of cross-device support without having to build a fully native app like an iOS or an Android app.
Okay. Yeah, I know that when we talk with people in developing countries, the mobile is like #1 platform that they're going to be using. So that's really great that there's going to be better responsiveness and mobile support,
Yep.
and that we're providing that. But, in the US and Europe too, we hear from a lot of users that they want, of course, more and more people, even professionals, who are wanting to use it on mobile. Okay, this next question, an understandable bit of confusion here, because the term microsite has been around for a long time and used in other contexts. In OpenEdX, what is a microsite and how are they used?
Yeah, so a microsite is basically a sub-site that can be branded with its own look and feel and with its own custom URL and its own subset of courses. So the idea being that you have a single edX site with all of your courses, and then you can create subsites within your main edX site that are targeting particular users. So it could be all courses in Russian, or it could be all customers who are paying this level of access to these courses. So it really extends the edX platform to provide sort of white label capabilities, where each microsite is essentially another site. So to the user, it looks like a completely separate site, but under the hood, it's the same edX site. So the administrators can log in and they can see all of the courses, no matter which microsite they're on. But when a student logs in, they're going to see a subset of those courses. They're only going to see the courses that are designated for that particular microsite. So it's a really powerful feature of the edX platform. It's not very well publicized or documented. And we've been working together with the edX solutions team and with the folks at EduNext, who've really kind of spearheaded a lot of the microsite development to improve that capability and really take full advantage of it.
Okay, so it sounds like for the end user, the microsite is transparent, but for the administrator, it's a lot easier than having lots of different instances of OpenEdX.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the parallel to this would be you set up a separate edX site for each person who needs a different look and feel. And that's certainly one way that you can go. The problem with that is now you have multiple edX sites that all have to be updated when a new version of edX comes out, security patches, you have your users spread across multiple sites. So really the beauty of microsites is that you get all the benefits of a centralized administration, and upgrades and maintenance can all be done on a single edX site, with the advantage of that personalization and customization for different unique segments of your users.
So one person asks about the management of microsites, and he wrote in, I would like some advice on how to bring up microsites for new clients without taking the whole system offline to provision the new assets.
Yeah, so this is a fairly technical question, but basically what the person is getting at is that today the way that you set up a new microsite is by editing what's called a microsites.json file. And that's a file that lives on the file system that defines each of your microsites. And when you add a new microsite, you have to restart the edX server so that it will reread that microsites.json file to identify that you've added a new site. So you can imagine if you're only adding one microsite every few months, that's not a really big deal. You just do the restart, sometime when there's not very many people using the site. But if you're rolling out microsites on a daily or even weekly basis, that can be very disruptive to the user experience, right? If the site has to be taken offline every time you add a new microsite. So one of the advancements, one of the improvements of the microsite architecture is using what's called a database-driven microsite. And that means that instead of storing that microsite configuration on the file system, we store it in the database. And that allows us to basically do like through the web configuration of new microsites. So an administration user can log into the Django admin, and they can define their microsite right in the web interface. And when they hit save, that microsite is instantly available, and there was no server restart required.
Okay, great. So the question, what in OpenEdX can be customized? Since it is open source, people are wondering what they can do.
Yeah, this is a great question. We get this a lot. So both the beauty and the curse of open source is that it's open source, meaning that anything can be customized. But what we like to remind our customers is that just because it can be customized doesn't necessarily mean it should be customized. So what we really try to help our customers understand is what are the best practice extension points that edX provides that are safe places to make those types of customizations. So one of the most obvious ones is the customized theme. So changing the look and feel of edX is probably one of the most common customizations that people want to do to edX is to brand it, to use their logo, their look and feel, their color scheme, whatnot. And that's a fairly well-known way of extending the edX platform, and it's fairly safe, right? It's getting even more modular with this new theming v2 that the edX team is working on. Another extension point is the XBlock architecture. So you can think of an XBlock as like a WordPress plugin, right? It's a way of adding new capabilities to edX without actually having to touch the core edX code base. So there's all kinds of XBlocks out there. There's things for doing simulations. There's XBlocks for doing uploaded assignments. There's multiple XBlocks that are available kind of off the shelf that you can just plug into edX, and you can add new capabilities to your edX site. And so if the kinds of customizations that you want to do can be encapsulated in a courseware component, meaning you want to provide some new capabilities to your students and your authors who are creating courses, then XBlocks is a really good way to go. It does require having some knowledge of Python, and not everyone who comes to use OpenEdX is familiar with Python. There's another extension point that's not as widely publicized called JS Input. And this is using, you can probably tell by the name, it's using JavaScript. So with JS Input, you can extend the edX platform using simply just by writing JavaScript code. And it can still interface with the backend of edX to pass back student information and what scores they received on different exercises. So that's a really a fairly safe way of customizing edX as well. Where you get into deeper customizations is if you actually need to add new capabilities to the core edX code base. So I don't mean like courseware components, but I mean, for example, if you wanted to add support for a new authentication backend. Until recently, you would have to make a lot of changes to the core edX code base. And that's something that we have a lot of experience doing here at Appsembler. But if you're new to edX and you're new to Python, that's something that you need to be very, very careful to do. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, edX is released 3 times a year on a quarterly basis. And if you've made customizations to the core edX platform code base, there's a risk when the new version of edX comes out that those customizations will conflict with the new code that's being released with the new version. So one of the things that we really encourage our customers to do is contribute those enhancements and those features back to the edX community, and that helps in a number of ways. One, it improves the overall platform for everybody, and number two, it de-risks that investment, right? So if I take the edX core platform and I fork it and I make some changes to it, now I'm bearing the burden of maintaining that over time. Whereas if I take that change and I contribute it back to the edX platform and it gets incorporated into the core edX code base, now the edX team and the whole community is now going to make sure that that feature that has been developed stays up to date, is well tested, is well documented, and remains compatible with future versions of the edX code base.
So I know that Appsembler has developed code in several instances that's become part of the core edX code base. What's the process? You know, if someone develops code, how does that happen?
Yeah, so this has been an evolving process as the edX team has learned how to better interface with outside contributors, and outside contributors have given feedback to the edX team. It has evolved to a point now where if it's an X block, right? If it's building an X block, there's no need to really communicate that with the edX team because you're not touching the core edX code. If you're building something that's more core, like it's maybe more invasive, you're making lots of modifications to the core code base of edX, then it's advised to talk with the edX team very early, before you even write any code, to talk with the edX team and explain what it is you're doing or that you're trying to do. And that's an opportunity for the edX team to look at what you're trying to do, and they might have some insight into other people who are trying to do the same thing, right? Or maybe that feature that you want to build is actually on the edX roadmap. So that's a feature that they're going to roll into a future version of edX. So it might make sense, depending on your timeline, to just wait until edX builds that. So in the work that we've done, we've met with the core edX development team, and usually this takes the form of like a Google Doc, right? You just write up a document of what you're proposing to do, who this is for, what problem it solves, what the rough architecture looks like. And then that gives the edX team an opportunity to review that and give feedback and sort of best practices about how they would implement that if they were going to do it. And it's also suggested to share that document with the greater community, right? So OpenEdX is built by hundreds of contributors all around the world, and the edX team, as smart as they are, they don't, they're not familiar with every possible use case of how to use edX. So by floating this out to the edX community, it really allows the collective knowledge of everyone in the edX community to provide feedback, and hopefully through getting different viewpoints, you can kind of hone in on what the optimal solution would be. And that solution might differ from the scope that the proposer originally had, right? So I might be thinking very short-sighted of just, I've got this problem I need to solve, and here's the fastest path to do that. And once floating it in the community, I might be informed of other use cases that I hadn't even considered. And by getting other stakeholders on board, we can actually build something that meets the needs of a wider audience than we had originally anticipated. Of course, this has other drawbacks. It could potentially take longer to build. It might require more discussions than you had originally anticipated. But we believe that the open source way is a sort of consensus-driven community approach that allows multiple voices to have a say in how things get built. Of course, there's always going to be external deadlines. We need to ship this by X date. And so sometimes this approach doesn't work, and we fully understand that. And we work with our customers to try to find a good balance of building something that's more long-term, meets the needs of the community versus meeting their immediate needs for their organization.
Okay, great. So we've only got a few minutes left. Let's see if we can just quickly answer two other questions. And one of the beauties of not doing broadcast TV is it doesn't matter if we go a minute or two over. But this question is, what is the easiest way to make the membership management completely external and make Open edX able to serve courses with external user authentication system? So about integration here.
Yep. So one of the things that people come to us to help with is integrating edX with their external systems. So, you know, as great as edX is as a software, it's limited in you know, being an all-in-one solution, right? And most organizations who've been around for a while have their users, their customers, their partners, you know, whoever it is that they want to serve through their online learning. That database usually lives in some other system. So, you know, one of the most common integrations that we do for our customers is integrating edX with existing systems where those people live. So an example of this is, you know, if you have an Active Directory and that's where all of your employees log in using their company-wide username and password, those people really shouldn't have to have another username and password to log into edX. They should be able to log into edX using the same username and password that they use to log into their corporate network. And edX now supports this as of the Cypress release using something called SAML, which is for single sign-on. So SAML allows you to utilize external authentication services, whether it's Shibboleth or LDAP or Active Directory or OAuth 2, are all supported so that your users can essentially log into your edX site using the authentication system that they already know and it's already being used within the organization. So that's answering the second part of the question, which was the external user authentication system. The membership management, I'm not exactly clear on what, I don't know the context of this particular person's question, but I can talk about how we've done a similar integration for one of our customers that's using Salesforce. So as most of you probably know, Salesforce is a very popular, started out as a CRM, but now it's capable of being used as kind of your back office data store for all kinds of data. And this particular customer of ours has all of their customers, their partners, and employees in their Salesforce database. And so they wanted to basically have that be sort of the, you know, the system of record where they manage all of this. They didn't want to have to duplicate that and put all those people into their edX site. So we built a very lightweight integration between edX and Salesforce so that when someone registers on the edX site, we do an API call to Salesforce to check, is this person an employee? Are they a customer? Are they a partner? And then based on that API call, we are able to assign the appropriate course access level. So a customer is going to see different courses on the edX site than a partner or an employee. And this was, you know, this is just one example of where we've tied edX to an external system, and that external system is actually where, you know, the users and the access levels are being managed.
Okay, great. So one last question then, and this is about the complexity of edX. The person, well, we got this question from 2 or 3 different people. And one person said, will it ever become easy to manage Open edX without hiring a team of people? Someone else asked, can it be used by a normal IT man or does it require a talented IT man? So what about that, Nate?
Yeah, so this is also a really common question that we get from people who know that edX is open source, they know that it's freely available, and they expect that it's, you know, at a maturity level where they can just download it and start using it right away. The reality is that edX is a complex system that was really built to scale. So OpenEdX is the same software that powers edX.org, which serves 5 million students in every country in the world. So the system, in order to build a system that can scale to that number of students, number of users, you can expect there's going to be complexity there, and lots of different components, a lot of different moving parts that have to talk to each other. So I would say that my hope is that in the future, edX will be more accessible, that there will be faster, more turnkey solutions for getting started with edX that sort of hide some of that complexity, and so that organizations don't have to invest in a whole team of people to help them manage this. And this is something that is one of the reasons I started Appsembler, is that I want to lower that barrier to entry for people and make edX more accessible and make it possible for anyone who wants to get started using edX to do so. So some of you may have tried out our test drive service, which is essentially a one-click, one-button deploy of the edX platform. So literally within 10 seconds, you can get edX up and running, and you can start using it and sharing it with your coworkers and have the experience of authoring a course and inviting students to it. That is not necessarily a deployment of edX that you want to go into production with. It's more designed for evaluation purposes. But we're working very hard at Appsembler to build a scalable, turnkey, get started very quickly offering of OpenEdX. And I know the edX team, in particular the DevOps team, is working very hard to make edX more accessible, to host on different providers. We mentioned this earlier, like Amazon, Google Cloud, Azure, and also making it easier to get up and running as a developer who wants to, to customize the platform. So I guess bottom line, today it has complexity, and that's probably not going to go away. It's going to continue to remain a complex platform. But over time, the community will write more documentation, will build kind of starter kits, will build all the kinds of things that you see. We've seen this with WordPress and Drupal, where these are essentially commodity software now. There's so many providers out there that make it really easy for you to get started with these other platforms. And I fully expect that OpenEdX will get there. It's just a matter of time.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Nate. And thank you all. I know that there were people all over the world who submitted questions, and if you stayed up late or got up early to hear this, we appreciate it. If we didn't get to your question, please feel free to email us. You all got an email from me this morning, so you know my email address. Or you can email Nate at nate@appsembler.com and shoot us your questions, and happy to answer those. And I expect that we'll be doing this again, maybe in about 3 months or so. So thank you all.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye.